Hey guys, how you doing? Hope you're all doing well. So I want to jump on here and do a quick clip from the channeling of the discourse the way through. So I've been sitting out here. It's now like going on 4 o'clock. I've been sitting out here for like hours, and it's like it's just flowing through, throwing flu, and it's like, okay, I need to stop so I can just do a little clip here. But I keep it just writing, writing, writing. And I'm hoping, it is a beautiful day. It's a little cold and a bit windy, so hopefully it comes out clear. So I'm just going to read this little part here. What's been coming through today is a lot of information, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, where do you even start? It's a lot. So I'm just going to read. It says, thereby it is in of itself being that which is for it is of you, meaning you are of it, which is the creation, not the created. For that which you create is in of itself being, meaning that which is your experience, to be of it unto itself in him to lightning, meaning you are evolving beings unto itself in creation, which is in him to source, which is next in line to the throne. So it's basically saying that's a mouthful right there in itself. I definitely, and this is just rough draft because as I said, I'm just channeling this. So of course it's going to be, I'm going to go back and try to break it down a little bit more but I'm just giving you a little peek into the discourse as how it is in its creation, right? How it's forming and it's coming to me. So it's not a finished book publishing, you know what I mean? It's in the process. So let's see if I can break that down a little bit for you. Thereby it is in of itself being that which you are being right now, right? So that which is, for it is of you who you are as in your personhood, meaning you are of it, which is the creation. You're of creation. You are it. You are the creation, not the created, because you already are. You're your source and its being, which is whole, right? Not what you're creating of it, because there's the creation and the created. You're creating from where you are, which is, in your human self, right? And so what you're creating is what you're thinking and what you're imagining. You're creating kind of like an artist creates through painting. So it's what you're creating. Um, when you're a when you're being, you're not being created, you already are. So you're of the creation which source created already, which has been already done. So you're not being created, but you're creating of yourself onto something else, which is the layers of source. And then that is what comes in the future, right? Because where you are now is not where you're going to be then. You're going to be something else, which was. It's like the building on to itself into something else, which is the layers of source and creation. All right, and then for that which you create is in of itself being, meaning that which is your experience. So we create through our experience what we're experiencing, and that becomes our knowledge and our awareness of where we are to what we're going to be. So we get to make the choice in now of who we are, what we're doing. So, for example, what we were in the past, we made decisions based on where we were, which has created the now present moment. And from there, now that where we are now, we're still making choices in the present moment, which will determine what we're going to be later. So we can make the choices of which are good or not so good in our lives. And then that's the path that we take from that moment of creation in the choosing of it. So in our choosing a choice, which is really part of creation, we get to choose what we want to create. And so in choosing, it is part of the creating, right? So we can create a good life or we can choose create a bad life. So it's really up to us, what we are creating of ourselves as we are, because we already are source. It's what we're creating to experience and experience. And so when we have the experience, it's what becomes of it, right? So to be of it unto itself in him to lightning, which is our awareness, right? And enlightening is the book expresses it as lightning, like not a lightning strike, but lightning, which is energy, which is vibration. So when we're choosing it as lightning, it's from our awareness where we are, what we're choosing. So Like if we are, say, for instance, we're 10, of course, we're going to make different decisions than where we are now as an adult. So it goes by our awareness. Same as, if you're in the form of a animal, you're going to have the awareness of an animal at that level of awareness, not one that you would have as a human. Not that a human awareness is better, but it's the level of awareness that you are at is what I'm trying to get at. So in him to its lightning. So that's where you are in your awareness, right? Meaning you are evolving beings unto itself in creation, which is in him to source. So we're in a line to source, to become of source, which is our higher self, our higher power, our higher knowledge and awareness, right? So we are at the level that we are being in the moment, to be and develop where we are, where we can get to that being of the higher power, which is source, right? Because we can only know where we are in the present moment. We can't know, everything that source knows. So we are evolving through the awareness levels, right? Which is next in line to the throne. And next in line to throne is to be next in line to source, right? Which is the becoming of source unto itself, which we are, right? Because we are source. Thereby it is not to be king, to rule, right? Which is to be fooled by itself, meaning to think something else other than what you are, right? Or to what you're being to somebody else. But to be of a God over one's own self, right? So to be able to be in its awareness in its full entirety, and to be present with yourself, basically. And it's not trying to rule others and to make them into something they're not, or to force them to do something they don't want, because when we're in that, that's false, right? So we sometimes fool ourselves into being ruling over others because we think it's always about what's outside of us, not what's within. So we want to govern ourselves, and that's like being a god to ourselves, right? Thereby to live, not to serve, which is that of a peasant. All right. So we're not here to serve others. We're here to serve source, right? And so to serve source, and through that and our own divine connection, and we're connected with source, we can be to others through our own awareness, right? And so when we try to serve others from the level of where they are or where we're being without our divine connection, we're not really being of any help to anybody else, right? So we have to do our alignment first, right? Check into ourselves, true selves, our higher selves, be in alignment with source, and then, bring forth what needs to be brought forth through source, right? So you can be of that service. It's not saying to not, maybe be of service, but to be of it in the right way. Otherwise, we're being a peasant. That's what it's basically saying, right? Thereby it is unto itself and being that which is to rule itself, not another person. Thereby meaning that which is of its own consciousness, which is to think itself, not its ignorance, right? So to be in its own awareness of its own consciousness, where you are at your level, not drop down to be in a different level, accept yourself where you are. Not everybody's at the same place, so we want to accept everybody where they are, as well as we accept ourselves where we are. So we don't want to think of ourselves being less than source, because then we are going into ignorance, which is the human concept, right? The construct. Thereby it is that which you are, that you have been born to, which is a mirror. So the mirror is our reflection of source and another being, right? Because they are as well. And I talked about in the last video, the last clip, our parents are our source. They may not be fully aware of it, or act in alignment with it, because they may and have been brought up thinking they are separate, right? So when we're in ignorance, we're in the human form, the concept. So when it says when we're born to that which we are a mirror to, it's not just talking about being born, as in our birth, but when we're born into our the mirror is whenever we see something that comes through our awareness. Whenever we're being born, it's not always birth. So don't think of it as always being, born into a new life, but born into an awareness, right? Because that's really what it is all about. It's being born into the awareness, because where you are is where you're going to take up in life, right? If you're of a human awareness consciousness, you're not going to be born into a human or an animal consciousness, right? So we want to kind of think of it, along those lines, not just like a birth, right? Because you're being born into that, which is a mirror, which we see of ourselves. So being that have the capabilities of being a human form, the consciousness where I am, because where I've evolved from, I can now be born into like the human form, which now I can see the form being, which is not just myself, but others, right? Because they're my mirror, and whatever it is that I am being in this form is my reflection that I'm seeing in others, or what it is that is outside of me. I'm seeing the mirror reflection in its being, thereby the condensation to that which you cannot see of the truth, right? So when we're not seeing the truth, we're seeing it's like a condensation, like we can't see. It's like the mirror reflection, and it gets all like foggy, so we really don't have clarity on what we're seeing. Thereby it is a reflection of itself in being that which is, that isn't, meaning to see of itself in being that which you are not, but the being of that which is showing up as meaning to see the illusion that is through the eyes of being, which is beholder, that which is one to itself, that which is separate, not one with. So we can see from the eyes of ourself, which is our being, which is either when we're in alignment or when we're not, with source, or if we're in alignment with, our human consciousness, we're seeing from that space, right? So that is, where we're being from. Thereby to be one with, not separate, is that which is source, or that which is related. So anything that is source is relation. Anything that's not of source is related. And I mentioned that in the last video clip. Thereby I know of myself when I am separate, not one with source, for that which I am one with source, I know of all unto itself. So I'm limited in my thinking when I'm on myself to human, which is the Laura version of myself, not source, because source knows all. When I'm on to source, then I am more aware. I don't have the limitations that I do when I am in the Laura form. Okay. Thereby I am that which I am until I am not anymore, which is the taking up and the putting down, which is of others, but not them themselves. So I know of all unto itself, which is source, when I am in alignment with source. When I'm not, I'm not. I'm limitations. Thereby I am that which I am until I am not anymore, meaning I am only what I am until I am. Like when I evolved into something else and I become something else, I have a different awareness. I have a different space of being from, which is the truth of itself at that point. Not that what I'm being now. So there's the evolution of myself from the Laura form to what I'm going to be, later on, and whether that be like maybe a year from now, or because I'm not in the same space that I was like 10 years ago. I'm totally in a different space now with more awareness, more openness, more consciousness of where I was then. And so I will be that in the future from where I am now. And then that is also, so I am that which I am until I am not anymore. So I am constantly being what I am now until I am not that anymore. So that means the evolution of it, which is, you can always choose something else. You can learn from it. You can be it. You can expand it. You can see it, right? And then when you are able to do that, you can expand your awareness and to become something else than what it is now. So it's like transformation. Okay. And so that is what it is, taking up and putting down, which is of others, but not them themselves. So we have where we're either being in alignment with source or we're being in alignment with our human self, which is the buildup of the past from being, and then the reflection of what we see outside of ourselves and who we are with our divine connection with source. So that is others. And so with them being the same, they are source in the same way as we are. And it's, are they being in their true self? Are they being separate? Right. So we not only say we have to, because we don't have to do anything, but we want to get in practice of being able to see others as we are, because we are them and they are us. It's the same, right? No matter where we are on the path. They're of their own consciousness as we are our own consciousness, and we can be only what we are at the time of our being. We can't be anything else other than. And so the only thing you can do is acceptance. You can only accept who we are, that we are, and that is true love, right? And so I'm getting tons of chills all up my back. All right. So they want to put emphasis on that. All right. So thereby I am that which I am, and it feels like love. Thereby I am that which I am until I am not anymore, which is the taking up and the putting down, which is of others, not them, but not them themselves. So we're not taking them up, right? So it is just what we have been, which is of them, because we are of them, right? When we're of our parents, we take on what they have been, what they've gone through, what they've experienced. So it's a buildup on of ourselves from one life to another through the evolution of itself, which is a soul being. Thereby meaning to not put others down for their being to that which I know not about. Meaning I don't know where they've been. I don't know who they are. I don't know what their experience is, so I shouldn't put them down for their being, because they are where they are, as well as I am. Thereby meaning to not put them down. All right, I read that. Thereby to mind my own business is that which it bees to itself, not others, for they can only be of themselves to that which they are, as you are unto yourself. Thereby, as you say it is, do not call the kettle black. Right? Thereby it is not of itself, being to that which is not, it is only that which it is. Thereby it be not only that which it is, thereby to not use it as an excuse to be that which you are, for you are of your own kingdom, not a squire, meaning to preach to itself to that which you are not of, right? And I think that's pretty self-explanatory right there in itself. Basically it's don't use another person where they are to be an excuse for not being in control of your own self, because they are yelling and screaming, or they're doing something they shouldn't. Don't allow it to be your excuse to do the same thing, right? So if somebody's going to jump off a bridge, I've been told this myself. Somebody's going to be jumping off a bridge. Are you going to jump off a bridge, right? So you have to be in control of yourself, regardless of what a person is. Don't use it as an excuse to not be. For you have your own kingdom, which is not a squire, and to preach to itself to that which you be not of. So if you're not of it, you shouldn't be preaching to other people, to be where you are, because they are only of where they are, and they can't be of anything else. They have to learn through their own experience. And so when we preach to others, we're actually putting them down and judging them. And we don't want to not only be in that space, to them and towards them and for them, but for ourselves, because when we put others down, we're actually putting ourselves down, and instead of trying to raise them up or to raise ourselves up, we bring our own energy level down, to be in that space, to be of judgment, right? So we ourselves are not at that point in a moment of higher consciousness. Thereby to be free of consciousness is unto itself and being, that which is source, not itself and thinking, right? So the consciousness of source is not thinking, it's knowing. Human consciousness is thinking itself, thereby to think itself in being of a god, not a beggar, right? So we want to allow ourselves to be in our godhead, not our consciousness, which is unconsciousness, of a lower level, which is being expressed in words by this as being a beggar. Not that there's anything wrong with beggar, that, but we don't want to be in that level, of that, right? So no condemnation, towards anybody who's homeless or anything like that, but it's just the verbiage. All right. Thereby it is by that which is common among the human population that you think you are less than that which is a God to yourself in being. Thereby you are it, right? You become it if you think you are something less than what it is, right? And so we want to get out of the concept or the reality, the beliefs that we're less than our own God, right? And it's not saying that, we're the God of everybody in the world, and, it's our own selves, right? So we are a source, and then we are God to ourselves. Source is everything to all beings. So there's those consciousness, right? The awareness of our being. But you can only see it, that which is true, it truly is. So if we're thinking we're less than, we are seeing that, and then when we're believing it, and then we're being it, if we are seeing that we are God to ourselves, and that we can create and we can be true to ourselves in alignment to source, then we'll be able to be that, right? That becomes true. Thereby it is who you are, not the being of it, which is the consciousness of being human. Thereby the two consciousness unto itself that exists in that which is time and that which isn't. So there's two consciousness that exist, one that's in time and one that isn't. So there is no time, to source, only our being in the form, whatever that form is. And so with, of course, me is human form. So in time to itself where I am, which is the stages of being, which is in between that which is and that which isn't, which is here and now, in the present moment of what it was, that which is now, that is going to be. So I'm in the stages of the presence of being. So I'm evolving, I'm continuing being where I am, versus source where it already is. There's no time, there's no trying to be, there's no, making things up in its own reality other than what it is. It's just being, right? Thereby it is that which you be to either. So because we are where we are, we can be either. We can be in alignment to source, right? Which is allowing ourselves to rise our vibration to higher conscious awareness, love, being in alignment. And, there's different ways and tools that you can do that. Meditation, practice of, being present in the moment. And then, if we're not, then, of course we're going to be in our human conscious. So we have the ability to be either. Thereby it is, and when we're in time, when we're in meditation or we're being in alignment with source, then we're not of time. It's when we come back into the physical dimension reality that we're of time. So the two consciousness unto itself that exists in that which is time, that which isn't, and that which isn't, sorry. Thereby it is that which you be to either. Thereby it is you that is both unto itself and being, meaning to be of itself in its own castle, right? So you're of your own castle, your own awareness, your own high consciousness, your lower consciousness, your being. It's all here. This is all you need forever. This is all you need is your being, your awareness, right? So that's all you need. You come fully packed and aware of everything. It's just to be acknowledging of it, right? You have your own castle. Right? So it's not meaning to take over a land, like they did in the old days, conquer somebody else's, or even what's going on now in the world. It's just, countries trying to take over other countries. You have wars going on now. Even in 2023, there's wars going on. I mean, like, how is that even possible? Right? So are we not even at that level of awareness yet, though, where we can understand more of than where we were? Because like if we can and or be in that space of awareness, then we will be able to see that we don't need to fight and take over and conquer somebody else's castle, and allow them to be who they are, because it's fully about acceptance, right? We accept who they are and allow them. We don't have to take over countries, we don't have to fight and go to war. It's not necessary, right? And in that space, you're being of the past. right? And you're not being present, you're not in your full consciousness, you're in that level of consciousness, right? So in that awareness, right, those are things that we want to be aware about, and then work on ourselves. I mean, that's an inner conflict, that we're putting on the world towards others, our own hatred, our own anger, our own frustrations, our own ignorance, that we're putting on, that we're not accepting of all people or all animals or all life, right? So we're of our own castle, and we need to be the god of it. We need to be more aware and conscious, right? And wherever it is that you are, right? Without judgment, it's only acceptance. Thereby I am, that of I am is the being of itself, and him to lightning. Again, lightning is its awareness, lightning. Thereby to be a God before itself, to that which you cannot see, but the being of it, which is the tendency to be something else, which is more than. So we always have the tendency to be more than who we are, which is a reflection of being our true self, right? Because we're not where we are, that source is, right? We have this innate being within ourselves that has been developed over time in the creation of source, wanting to be something more than what we are without acceptance in the reality of that we're being. So in this innate being, we're always trying to be more, which is the creation of itself, right? So there's always this creation that's going on and it's happening. There's always movement, there's always doing, there's always action, there's always thinking, and there's always the creating to be more of itself, which is not, trying to be something it isn't, but that which is trying to be more like itself, which is source, right? Which is love, which is the divine knowledge, the divine consciousness to be more in alignment with source, right? So that's always the internal wanting the being of source, right? Thereby the principle, the tendency to be something else, which is more, right? So there's always that innate tendency to be more. And so that's why we're always trying to, learn, develop, and it's just an evolution of itself. Thereby the principle of being is the potential to be that which you are, to be of itself, separate, meaning to make more out of itself than a simple being, that it is that which is to see by yourself as more than its appearance, right? So the simple being is just to be, but we're always trying to be more because we think we aren't, which is source. And so in that being, we're always trying to be more than of its appearance, right? Because we see what is our appearance, we don't see source, right? But if we understand that we are source, we can start to see that we are it, versus on what we aren't, which is separate. Because there really is no separate being. It's just what we're seeing and what we're not seeing, right? Thereby I am, and I am is in of itself being simultaneously not separate of its original being, which is form. So you are, basically it's saying you are source simultaneously, right? So you're not really separate of source. You are source in its full being, which is the reality of truth, not false. But when we see ourselves as separate, which is the human being and the form, we think it is. We think we're separate, which is false, which is the knowing or the not knowing. Thereby it is not separate of itself, only you are from that which you are seeing from. So when you're seeing from the human consciousness, the constructs of what we believe, then that's what it is. If we're in alignment with source and we're seeing from source view, then we're seeing from that view. We're creating from there. So we always have the two, which is what you might say is the duality, if you want to call it that, that which is source and that which isn't, which is the two perspectives that's going on within you. How am I seeing it from? Which view am I seeing it from? Thereby it is a promise that is kept to itself in being that which is to itself, not that which is to source. Meaning you keep the promise to yourself to be of who you are in its being, which is its original form, which is your divine connection, but to see from itself, which isn't, right? So for you are not of the promise to source, only yourself to that which you keep for yourself, not source. So you keep promises to yourself, not source. A lot of times people think, oh, well, we have the promise of source, but you are source. You are the source in being. You promise to yourself in the being of it. which is true, right? So the promise is to be true. Thereby, the promise is that which it is being to itself, to be of itself something else, which is more than what it is, which is trying to see from different perspectives, not the one. For the one perspective is of source, which is the only one, which is love. So you have the divine principle, which is awareness of itself in being, which is the creation of itself unto itself, which bees, which is where your awareness is from the space that you're being, which is, okay, am I seeing or being from the space of source, or am I being from my human consciousness? And those two awarenesses are the only two that exist, right? So for an animal, it would be their level of consciousness and source, because even an animal is of source, it's of the divine creation that's already been created. It's already been, like, everything's already been created. It's just the taking up of it now to make more of it unto itself to be something else, right? So before I might, whatever I was before this human form of Laura, I was that. And now I am here. And who knows where I'm going to be in the future, if I'm going to be an animal, or if I'm going to be, I don't know, an angel or a god or whatever. It's where everything's been created. So the human form's already been created. The water's already been created. Everything's been created. It's now just the taking up of it, to be in the awareness of the space, to be of the creation, to be somewhere else. It's the evolution through time, through everything, as it's being in alignment to where it is at the time it is being, because it can't be anything else other than, right? But it is the promise to be through that, which is to be where it's going, if that makes sense. And so the end all is love, right? So it's all about love. Thereby it is that which is love, that is of source, not that which you are of, but the being of the liking, which is like itself first. For you have to like yourself in order to be love for yourself, which comes first. Thereby it is you unto itself, to being that which is source, right? So you have to, you can't love yourself or anybody else if you don't even like yourself, right? And you are of the liking, which is in the liking of source, which is by love. So by its original nature, you are love, right? But we're not love. So because we have the ability to not be love. So we are of the liking, which is the scale of being from not love to love. So there's that scale that we have, kind of like the emotional scale. We have you love, and then the rest of the scale, which is all the layers of non-love. So there is never nothing that is not being in time to itself that isn't of itself. So it is being where it is, that you are, which is where you're supposed to be. So in these stages of love, it's like everything already is being. So there is nothing that it isn't being, right? So everything exists, everything already is, everything is, right? There's nothing that isn't being, nothing that has not already been created, right? Everything already has been created. So when you want to say, okay, we're in love or hate, hate is something that exists, but it's like an absence of, it's a lack of, right? So it's not really hate, it's not really the opposite, because it's like like if you look at it like love as being the light, and then you go to dark, right? It's the passing down of the levels from light to the dark. It gets dimmer and dimmer and dimmer and dimmer, and then there is none. But even in the in none, there is an isness of the none. It's the awareness of lack, of being, which triggers itself to be, okay, I'm not of love. Where am I? I'm kind of lost in this space of where I am, and all I can see is negative, which negative is less than, it's lack. It's polar opposites of being, which is true to itself, which is love in the light. So it's those levels and those spaces of being in those levels. I don't know if this is making sense. It makes sense to me because it's coming through me, so I understand it. But I don't know if I'm explaining it to where it's relatable for everybody else. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, just pop them down below, or if you're getting it or you're not getting it, let me know and I can try to clear it up. But all right, so thereby it is that which is love, that is of source, not that which you are of, but the being of the liking, which is to like itself first. For you have to like yourself in order to be love for yourself, which comes first, right? You can't be anything other than love if you don't even like yourself. Which is unto itself to be that which is source, which we're in alignment to be of love, which is source, because source already is. So we're in alignment to be of love. So wherever we are on that scale of being, with like the emotional scale, we're, on its way there. And it's just the consciousness of where we are. And so we are of the liking. Now, the liking is being comparable to source as in love, which is higher consciousness, but we're also in the liking to, as when we are in the human form, the liking. So the liking is what I like, what I don't like, which is of the choosing. Okay, I like this car, I don't like that car. I like this person, I don't like that person. I like this food, I don't like that food, right? That's the liking. And then the levels of liking is also a level of awareness to love, because when you really, really, really like something, you love it. Like you just like are in ecstatic, or I love it, or I don't like it. We have those levels of like and non-like, right? So, but we are of the liking, right? There is no love unto consider, coming from this channeling. There is no real true love of the human form or any form other than, right? Because source is the only true love, which is it's unconditional. And it's not wavering. It doesn't come and go. There's no true love to a human. It's only when we are in that space of awareness, but it's not a constant source of love, right? It's a different love. So there is no true love to a form that is not source, if that makes sense. So we're of the liking, which puts it, we have the tendency to be, but we're not always in that space, and we can't always be in that space because we live in this world, this realm, this 3D, this consciousness, this reality, and other people are where they are, in their space, in this reality, and wherever they are, who they're being. So it just doesn't exist here. And I've had that experience, like when I met the angel, when I had my death experience and I woke up next to an angel, that love is not something that you get here, and that love stayed with me for like 3 days, and then it started to dissipate. But that was love from an angel that brought, that with me to remind me to help me realize that there's more beyond this realm that bees, right? Because we can't, not that we can't, I mean, we could if we wanted to, if we all got on the same page at the same time, at the same level of awareness, and just be in that space of love, we could all bring it in. But not everybody is there, right? So it's not something that's sustainable, for very long, because if you're not stable enough in that space to bring that level of love in here and to be it, something will trigger you and it takes you right out, right? So it's not it's like fleeting, right? So, and it's conditional. So to be of the liking is like, okay, I like this based on, what we like or what we don't like, and that's actually judgment, right? And so yeah, when we have the liking, we are either in like or we don't. But it's definitely not, like the love of source. So there's definitely a difference there. And then it says, thereby the parable being, which is kind of like comparable, not the parable like, in a Bible or something like that. The parable being, which is the comparable being to it, meaning that which is unto itself, and being that which is, and that which isn't at the same time, which is not separate, for it is in of itself being that which is source. And then it says that which is separate and that which is not, which is to see by itself that which is possible. So when you're of yourself, you're seeing what's possible. It's like, okay, from my human self, this is the path. This is what I can see is possible. If I'm seeing from source, this is what's possible. but you know, it's like there's this form that we have, you know, we are source, and source is never separate from us. It's us who step away from being one with source. So we are the being that's being separate. So we have the consciousness that's separate, and then the consciousness that's one with. So we can see through source, or we can see, you know, through the human concept, thereby meaning to see what it is being of itself unto itself and him in alignment, meaning to that which I am creating, not at which I am, for that which I am creating is unto itself, not separate from it. Thereby the kingdom come to that which you are, which is not only in heaven, but on earth. So we can create, you know, bliss, harmony, peace, love, acceptance, because we are already it, you know. We're just not allowing it, right? We're cutting ourselves off from being it for the experience and who we are, our identity, our ego, you know, and the creating of it. But we can definitely bring, you know, heaven on earth, right? And so whatever we our being is our kingdom. So if we're being having a bad day, you know, that's our kingdom that we're going to live in for the day. You know, if we're being joyful and happy and blissful, that's our kingdom for the day, or for the moment, in fact. And we can change it, you know, and whenever we become aware of it, we can change it. So we are the king and the gods of our own creation, of our own kingdom, of our own worlds, in our own reality. Thereby that which is done is that which you are creating unto itself, which is that which is different than that which source is creating. There's both two creations, because source is being source in love, and then you have our creation, which is not always of the liking, meaning you are it, only you have to bring it, which is by choice, right? We have choice, which is our freedom and choice to choose, which has been given by source, to do what we want, what we choose. It's not always acceptable by others, but, and or allowed, but you know, just being mindful and conscious, you know, of what we're choosing to be. Thereby the fulfillment of source unto itself in heaven is the creation of yourself on earth. So you can be and create in your current reality heaven, right? Because we already are it. We just have to allow it, and we have to be it, right? Thereby it is that which you are to your own kingdom, which is by choice, meaning to suffer it or to love it. Thereby to love itself first, meaning that of source which you are, thereby to be it unto itself and him, to that which is lightning, which is the awareness. Lightning is representing awareness. Thereby the kingdom come is you unto yourself, on earth as you are in heaven, which is by source. The radiating light of source is love, thereby it makes you the radiating light, that which is being of itself and him to itself, which is source. Thereby you are the light being unto itself and him, to that which it is being unto itself by choice. Thereby it is regardless of itself unto itself, which is not only from that which you take up, but what you are creating. Meaning you can be of love or not at any time, which is the lives that you are being to, which is to that which you are creating. And that's pretty much, I'm going to end it there. Yeah, I think I'm going to end it there, because I'm kind of going on like longer than I was only going to do a small clip, but that's basically what it's saying here on this part of the discourse. Thereby meaning that of I am of itself and being not that which I am, for I am of all of it unto itself in creation, meaning that which I have created unto itself in being, which is the living tale, thereby to tell my story unto the world, which is that which I show up as, thereby the form of being, or that which is source, which is the relation, not the related. And then we're back to the relation and the related, which is, of course, if we're being with source, we're in a relation. If we're, you know, being in our human self, we're related, because there's only the two. What we're in relation to, which is source, our divine creation, or that which is related to the human, which is our reflection. All right, yeah, I think that's where we're going to cut off there, because it kind of goes on into something else. And I've already been here for a long time. I gotta get something to eat. And yeah, if you have any questions or want to share anything about that, if it makes sense, if it doesn't make sense to you, any questions on it, I can clarify it. You can reach out to me. I do sessions, coaching, and yeah, that's pretty much it for today. So I'm going to be back out here writing some more tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to do another clip, but we'll see how it is out tomorrow and then where I'm at with it. But I'm definitely going to go get something to eat now. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll come back with more clips. All right. Happy journeys.